All right, hello and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and I got to start by quickly pointing something out. I made a mistake yesterday, so I am going to have a chat with CPM today, and that is going to happen at 3 o'clock UK time. However, I was under the impression it's going to be a live conversation. It's not going to be live, it's going to be posted on Sunday around 3 p.m. So still head over there, still show them some love, but do it on Sunday instead. Today, I'm mostly going to be reviewing the week. I'm going to be looking at the charts ready for the week ahead. So I'm going to point at all of this, try to be as unbiased as possible. And I want to focus on a couple of things, okay? First of all, Bitcoin dominance is potentially breaking out. And I do wonder if we are going to see this big run as Bitcoin moves to all-time highs, followed by some kind of alt season. So for the first time in a long time, I'm actually paying attention to Bitcoin dominance. It's not something I ever really use, but I had a question on it some time ago, I think in this neighborhood back here, and I posted a video and I said, look, I know a lot of people are calling for Bitcoin dominance to roll over, but I said, what have we really got? We got this big range, we've broken out, retested, and now we're moving higher whilst making a series of higher highs and higher lows. I do wonder if things are about to get incredibly bullish for Bitcoin based off of the dominance running, and something like this would, to me, make a lot of sense. So I'm keeping an eye on Bitcoin dominance for the first time. In the traditional finance realm, trueflation is coming down in the 2.4s now. And why is this so significant? If I draw your eyes to the bottom right-hand side of the screen, I was saying that this big decline in inflation was something that we were following, something that we were trading, something that was providing fuel for upside stock market rally and catching many people offside. As it started to base over the last couple of months and even start to creep back up, multiple times on this channel I mentioned that this was potentially concerning and that this may well start to pressure risk assets. This did not at all fit with my primary hypothesis that we are indeed in that inflationary to deflationary pendulum swing, right? It didn't fit with this notion at all. But the charts are the chart, and you can't deny that basing sideways and then starting to tick back up towards 3% is somewhat of a concerning look. Now, I did say at the time it could be, and it hopefully was, a short-term counter-trend move within the context of a downtrend. We are now finally starting to roll over. So the rollover, if we can come down and continue to sweep the lows, still fits with this inflationary, deflationary pendulum that I keep drawing. Overall, I do think the prior readout, the CPI print that we came off the back of this week, I think that probably was just a wobble. Again, there's a lot of people stressing about energy and oil prices. We're going to get to those charts in just a minute, but it's not just me that thinks this, okay? It's also the market. The market thinks that that was just a temporary wobble in inflation, and we are going to continue to see this swing towards asset deflation. And the reason for that is this is completely priced in now. This is 98% likelihood that we are going to see a pause. And as if that's not enough, as of the close on Friday, we currently sit at 72.3% chance, the highest that it has been ever, of not only a pause at September's meeting, but a pause at the following one in November as well. So inflation is likely done. Rate hikes are likely done. And of course, if both of those things are true, then the market has its room to rally. So the dollar finally in this neighborhood where we're going to get to find out whether or not it's going to sweep the highs, roll over and break down towards the 95, or whether we're going to be in this strange environment where the dollar is going to continue to run in the face of risk on and risk asset price appreciation. As I said, for the 10-year yield, my eyes are going to be focused on this. To my mind, if they're going to pause, then wouldn't we expect to see some kind of rollover and breakdown? If the Fed really are going to signal that they are done hiking rates, then shouldn't the yields start to roll over, start to at least base sideways and distribute before breaking down? That's what seems to me to be the most reasonable. And of course, if the yields are going to move down, if the risk-free rate of return, and of course, risk-free, if you're on this channel, you know, it's certainly not risk-free, but this is what's known as the risk-free rate. And if you can get a risk-free 4 to 5% yield, then it takes some of the incentive away to hold things like gold, like silver that are non-yielding, and it also takes some of the incentive away to take risk with your capital in the places such as the stock market or cryptocurrency market. So if we can actually get the rollover on a 10-year yield, if these yields can start to come down, it's going to incentivize people to start looking for allocation in other areas. So yields coming off should be conducive to higher crypto, gold, silver prices, and should also fuel big risk on moments in the equity markets. So here's gold. I am waiting patiently to get a breakout of this downward sloping blue resistance line. Once we get it from wherever that occurs, I do think we are going to run straight up to this all-time high neighborhood, this big blue zone. And I think this time around, fourth time is the charm and fourth time lucky. And I think we're going to break it this fourth time. So how low we have to come down first is anybody's guess. But break out of here, and I think it's time to get long. I think it's time to target at least the all-time high. And I do think once we get up into this neighborhood, let's in fact draw one of my squiggles, maybe something like this and up into here and then go. Something like that seems more than reasonable to me. Keeping my eye on that, particularly if the 10-year yield can roll over. Silver, we're still pushing this trade. And again, you know how it is, right? If yields are going to roll over, if the rates are done being hiked, if we're going to move to pause, something like this seems pretty reasonable to me for silver. It's been a long time coming. This is an awful lot of boring sideways price action. If we can break out these downward sloping red resistance line for silver, and if we can, of course, get up towards this all-time high neighborhood and break, that for me will be the trigger to start adding the miners. So I'm not yet interested in the miners. Miners tend to have a little bit of outperformance initially, then lag, and then the big explosive, like 10x performance comes towards the end of the major moves for the gold and the silver markets. Here's oil. So oil upsetting a bunch of people. I'm seeing 100 calls, and it just reminds me, I've seen this so many times, when everyone starts to be certain a certain level is going to be run, such as the 100 level, usually never comes. So I think this is probably what's coming. If I invert the chart, you can see it looks like we're probably going to make a repair and break out. That's at least how I see it. So I know a lot of people don't like this idea, but remember, having a thesis like this just essentially gives me an opportunity to manage risk around if the chart gives it to me. So if oil really is going to run 100, if I'm flat wrong on this, we're going to see something like this huge parabolic, advance, we're going to see a run to the all-time highs. It doesn't matter, because this trendline tool will enable me to stay out the way of this market. Unless it decides to break down, then we could be in trouble for oil. But if oil is just going to continue to blast off, then we're not going to have any entries show up, and it doesn't matter, does it? I just sit on the sides. So I know a lot of people do not like this call, and that's absolutely fine, but I'm fairly confident that we're going to get up to a maximum of 95 and then roll over. That remains to be seen, of course, but like I said, if inflation is going to continue to come down, if inflation is going to continue to roll over at the hard right edge, then I would think energy's got to come down as well. In terms of the stock market, not really an awful lot has changed, has it? I'm seeing a lot of bearish calls, a lot of bearishness out there. But look, we're still above this upward sloping blue support line. Lose that, and it is time to change my stance, okay? Lose this upward sloping blue support line, and there's something going on under the hood, and we will probably end up having to pull this cycle low down much lower. We may even end up sweeping this other low back here. And if I hop into a weekly chart, you can see if I draw your eyes to the blue arrows, which denote the weekly cycles, if we measure from this one to this one, we've got 23 weeks for potentially a weekly cycle low, but it can run 23, 24, 25, 26, as late as 31 weeks. So if we do have to undercut this low, form this daily cycle low further down below this low, then we can easily shift this one over to wherever this cycle low forms, probably somewhere in this neighborhood. We would have to count this as a week 31, perhaps, weekly cycle low, and then look to go again from there. This isn't something I personally like the idea of, but this is Bob Lucas's current interpretation. He says it's possible that we've got a day 10 high, we're going to be moving down to undercut this low before we actually mark the weekly cycle low from much later out. And if I pull up this chart right here, which is the weekly cycle chart, you can see it's a 24-week average cycle, but over here we had a 31 week, over here we had a 29 week. So although it is 24 weeks average, it's not unusual to see these much later overextended weekly cycle lows. Now, I personally don't think, let me make this clear, I personally don't think this is the case. I actually think that we have a perfect week 23 cycle low right here. I still think we are going to hold this blue trend line. I still think we are going to move higher into that next daily cycle low. And then I think from there, we're probably going to end up putting in an even higher daily cycle low, roughly, what will it be, 40 days out from here? Something like this. And this is how I see it. So I see us blasting off. I see us finding a breakout, then a pull back into this daily cycle low and move up into the next daily cycle low, and then one more thereafter before culminating in this weekly cycle low. That's where I would think the market is going to be at all-time highs before pulling back into that next weekly cycle low. So this one's probably going to end up coming up way higher than we currently have it marked, probably something like this. So as ever, the best thing to do is take things one day at a time. Like I said, the line in the sand is this blue up sloping support line. Get below that and we do have to entertain seeing some kind of downtrending cycle, recounting the weekly cycle. But for now, all the while we're above it, the thing is bullish, and I do actually expect us to break out. We're going to front run this pause, right? This pause is coming. The money has to flow into the risk assets. These all-time highs are begging to be taken out. So I do think we get super bullish next week. I just think games are being played into that pause. Once that pause is confirmed, then up, up, up and away is my humble opinion. And it's the same with the NASDAQ, right? Look where we've pulled back to. Perfect touch of the upward sloping yellow support line. So not only that, but if you draw your eyes to this blue downward sloping support line, resistance line, what have we done? Breakout, hard retest, breakout again, retest. Now we've got a confluence of support right around the blue and the yellow. If I zoom in, so you can see that. I see no reason why this thing can't resume to the upside as of next week, something like this, and then we can start to get super duper uber bullish as we front run this pause, as the market knows that good times are soon to come to an end, as cutting cycles, the onset of a cutting cycle triggers bearish price action. And here's the Dow Jones. So is this quite possibly a failed breakout about to roll over? Maybe. That's what stops are for, to give us a way to manage risk. However, this also could be breakout retest looking for that resumption higher. All the while we're above the pink, then the thing is bullish. All the while we're above this blue zone, then the thing is bullish. And indeed, if we can confirm a breakout retest resumption, then the thing is very, very, very bullish. And of course, the measured move target continues to sit at 38k. So I remain long and strong the Dow, and we'll see what the market can give. VIX getting a little counter trend bounce as of Friday. However, if we look at it with a trend line, then just a move back into resistance right before probably rolling over. That's what I would suspect. So like I said, that pause is set up for next week. The pause should be bullish, and we'll take it from there, right? Here's the FTSE 100. I'm kind of kicking myself for sleeping on this market a little bit. I think we did really well throughout the year at catching quite a few of these nice pumps on the FTSE 100. However, we recently entered this whole sort of chop zone, and I kind of just went to sleep on this market. I kind of forgot about it. I do think, given the redness that we saw in the US equities, it would be reasonable to expect Monday to open up with a retest or even a hard retest before moving higher. If I'm lucky enough to be given that opportunity by the market, then I will take the retest and put the stop somewhere like this and target the top of this upward sloping red resistance line that goes all the way back here, right? So I do think there's a very nice trade here potentially on Monday if we can get a retest of the downward sloping yellow resistance line. Will it give us that opportunity is the question, and of course nobody knows the answer. We could certainly just see this blast off. I definitely don't want to be chasing markets higher, but like I said, if we can get a retest from the FTSE, then I'm very interested in buying that, particularly if it holds this downward sloping yellow resistance line, which I should think it probably will. Apple continues to do Apple things, doesn't it? So a little bit of a squiggle and a breakout, that makes perfect sense. Tesla probably going to run into some resistance on this purple line. It's probably going to take some amount to crack. I doubt this thing is just going to blast straight through this. I would probably think that we're going to have to chop around here, perhaps even consolidate above or below it before we go. But when we do, that is certainly going to be a long from me, and I think this is a really nice trade. I think it sets up a very, very nice move. In fact, if we take a look at this measured move from the high up here to the low, that's the range. We could have possibly a maximum target of a breakout of somewhere in the neighborhood of $600 for Tesla. So will it reach that? That is anybody's guess. Will it even confirm a breakout? Again, that is anybody's guess. But I like the idea of this. This seems like a pretty decent risk to reward ratio, particularly if we are going to get all these things I keep talking about, which is inflation continue to come down, the pause be confirmed, and a big risk on moment as the institutions manipulate everyone into blowing this thing into all-time highs right before they then go and rob everyone blind. So lining this one up for next week. Again, if you've been here before, it should be absolutely no surprise to you. And lastly, Bitcoin. Take a look at Bitcoin. If I grab this fractal and move it out the way, okay, Bitcoin's doing okay, isn't it? I don't think many people, when we were in this neighborhood, which was just on Monday, just Monday of this week gone, I don't think there were many people that thought by Friday we would be at 26.5. Yet here we are, right? As of yesterday's high, we reached a high of almost 27k. And I wouldn't be surprised if this thing continues to move higher over the weekend. However, with that said, if we take a look at this fractal to me does seem perfectly within the realm of expectation. Now, of course, a pause could change this. If we get that pause, we could see this thing blast off. We could see this thing start to get really, really bullish really quickly. And if that's the case, then as I keep saying over and over again, we'll respect the breakout. If, however, we continue to follow this consolidation cycle, I'll be looking to get long out of that 60-day timing window as always. But so far, I think the facts are the facts. And like I said, going back to Monday, there was an awful lot of people out there certain that 12k or 10k or at least 22k was coming next. And like I said, now it sits at the weekend at just under 27k. I don't think many people were expecting that, to be completely honest. Coinbase continues to do that as well, doesn't it? Continues to be moving up. So happy days there. So does MicroStrategy. All the while we're above the yellow line, then the thing is bullish and looking for a repair. Again, we get that pause this week. We're finally in that neighborhood to start to see these things break out and get really bullish. Same with Riot, isn't it? It's above the range breakout in blue. It's above the upward slope in blue support line as well. So unless we're stopped out and invalidated, the thing remains bullish. Marathon, we're sitting on the sides. This thing is possibly looking for a bounce in this blue zone before a breakout. So we'll see what can happen out of there. Overall, I think the big thing is we don't want to see a surprise hike, right? A surprise hike could be catastrophic. Outside of that surprise hike, though, everything seems pretty much on pace. Everything seems within the realm of expectation. So I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you found value here. And I hope that you will head over to CPM's channel, show him some love, and check out our conversation that is going live around 3 o'clock tomorrow on Sunday, UK time. Thank you to every one of you that watches every day. Thank you to all of you that hit that like button and comment when you can. I really appreciate it. It really means the world to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. In the meantime, take care. All the best. Cheers. Bye.